Bismillahi, Rahmanir, Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to this session of moral study from the Quran or moral verses from the Quran. We are going to study another passage today. I'm just going to share my screen with you. We'll read out the text and translation of the passage. As far as this passage is concerned, most of the verses, as you might have now come to know, that they all relate to our moral upkeep and, of course, our moral conduct, and hence they have a very strong role to play as far as our own character building is concerned. So the verses that we are going to study today are from the third surah of the Quran, which is Surah Al-Imran, and they read as Bismillahi Rahmanir Raheem. زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب قل أنبئوكم بخير من ذلكم للذين اتقوا عند ربهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وأزواج مطهرة ورضوان من الله والله بصير بالعباد الذين يقولون ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار الصابرين والصادقين والقانتين والمنفقين والمستغفرين بالأسحار. For those who are deprived of vision, the lures of the world, women and sons, treasures of gold and silver, marked horses, cattle, and plantations have been made very tempting. All this is the provision of this life, and a nice abode is only with God. Tell them, shall I inform you what is better than these things? For the God-fearing, there are orchards with their Lord, below which rivers will flow. They will dwell in them forever, and chaste wives, and most of all, the pleasure of God. And God is watching these servants of His, these who pray, Lord, we have professed faith, so forgive our sins and save us from the torment of the fire. Those who are patient, truthful, obedient, who spend in the way of God, and who implore for forgiveness at the break of day. So these are the qualities which are mentioned of the righteous here in Surah Al-Imran, the third surah. And the verse actually, or this passage actually starts off with a list of things which have been made very attractive to people. And of course, when it is said that these are made attractive to people, it doesn't mean that they are of the sorts that they have to be despised or hated. What actually is being pointed out here is that these are lures of life, these are attractions of life, and if one doesn't maintain one's balance in these things and starts to give them more preference than the hereafter, then they become a real trial. So keeping in view the Arab mind of those times, and of course a lot of things which even today appeal to us, the list includes treasures of gold and silver, marked horses, of course, which means that they are specially marked for the purpose of, and then cattle and plantations, which of course is something which was very appealing to the Arab mind. But women and sons here are particularly mentioned because for them, the male offspring had a very, I would say, important significance. And that was because not only would these offspring be a guarantee of protection, and of course, they would be like their personal help. But on the other hand, a person with a lot of children, especially male children, would be regarded to be in great repute. So this particular aspect has been mentioned with regard to the Arabs, and including al-Musawwama, which means marked horses, and al-An'am wal-Hars, which means all these cattle and plantations, which they are blessed with. They do become a means of temptation, but this doesn't mean that they are evil per se, because there are people who have actually derived a different meaning from this verse, and they think that basically God is asking us to abstain from these things. No, the actual meaning of this word, of this verse, is that these are the things, or these are the means of allurement, and if a person is not allured to them in a way that he completely forgets the hereafter, then this is something which is despicable. This is not on. And that is why you see the words are Zalika mata'ul hayatid dunya, that these are the provisions of life, basically. I mean, referring to the fact that with regard to the hereafter, they are nothing. And if you think that you are going to be attracted by these things and then forget God and your responsibilities, then all that you should know is that these are very trivial things that you have fallen for. For the fact is, Wallahu indahu husnul ma'ab, which means that the good abode or the nice abode or the real abode that you should seek is the abode of the hereafter. So basically, this verse or this first verse gives us this inspirational message that as far as taking advantage or benefiting from these things is concerned, this is something of a normal nature. These are blessings of God. But when you get involved in them in such a way that you forget your responsibilities, you forget your obligations towards God and towards his creatures, then they become questionable, because then you are actually giving them preference, or the life of this world, the preference to the hereafter. And then the verse says, Zalika mata'ul hayatid dunya, all that these are provisions of this world, and they are absolutely trivial. Wallahu indahu husnul ma'ab, as far as what really that you should go after is concerned, is this hereafter. So my dear viewers, you would often see the Quran actually referring to these worldly attractions and these worldly allurements, and whenever it does, it is not to condemn these things. So we should always remember that as far as these blessings are concerned, or the things that we can enjoy are concerned, they are not proscribed or prohibited. What the Almighty wants us is that they become a means of trial. They become a means of one's temptation and deviance if we fall for them in a way that we forget our other responsibilities. So what is being said here is like cautioning and prodding people and not telling them that they have to stay away from these things. So this is an important point. I mean, the Quran or the Islam which is presented by the prophets of God ever since Adam until Prophet Muhammad never believed in asceticism, which means that you deny the pleasures of life, or you live like a hermit, or you live like a monk. No, that is not what the Quran tells us. It says that yes, you enjoy the pleasures of life because these are blessings of life, but don't forget your responsibilities regarding God and the hereafter. And whenever there is a clash between the what you have in this world, or the pleasures of this world, and the requisites of the hereafter, then it is here that the real test lies, that we should choose the requisites of the hereafter. And this is a priority which all believers, they have to maintain. So this is an important aspect that has to be pointed out. And then it says that as far as what is much better than what these things are concerned, the Quran, in a very, very loving way, in a very affectionate way, tells the Prophet that you tell them, قُلْ أَؤُنَبِّئُكُمْ خَيْرًا مِنْ ذَلِكُمْ لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَأَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَرِضْوَانٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ. So it's a beautiful piece of oratory, I would say, and a person who's well versed with the Arabic idiom, it's so moving and it's so enthralling to read these words, and it is as if the Almighty is asking the Prophet that inform these people that yes, these things are very good, but for the God-fearing, what they should know, that there are orchards with their Lord below which rivers will flow, which of course is a picture of paradise. They will dwell in them forever. And then of course there is no life without companionship. Without companionship, of course, we are all reduced. We all feel as if we are incomplete. So it says that there will be chaste wives for men, of course, which means that for women there would be chaste husbands, which is of course mentioned elsewhere in the Quran. And then the pinnacle of this is وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, which means the pleasure of God. God will be pleased with such people. So this is the pinnacle of a believer's success. That God is actually pleased with his people, and this is at times also referred to with regard to the Sahaba, when the words used are Raziyallahu anhum wa razu an, they became happy and contented with him, and the Almighty was happy and contented with them. So this is the ultimate thing, that not only we would be in the life of paradise and enjoy the things which are there, but ultimately what matters is that we will have the pleasure and the liking of the Almighty, and not to forget the fact that, as I just said, that there would be chaste wives, there would be companions with every one of us, and this companionship is something which all of us relish and we cherish. And without a companion, we all feel that there is something missing, there is a vacuum in our lives, and this relationship actually completes and complements, but in fact not only complements, it also supplements us, and it's like the thirst that each member of that pair has, and it is fulfilled and quenched once they come together. And this is our experience in this life. And the Almighty says it would be no different in the next world, when people would be blessed with pairs and they will be happy with them. At other instances, it is said that they will be of the same age, which means that they will remain in the same age, and the couples will be of the same age, meaning the fact that they would enjoy one another's company and benefit and relish it to the ultimate extent. And then it says, Wallahu basirum bil ibad, which means that God is watching these servants of His, which means that as far as these people are concerned, who remain protected from all these lures, from all these trials, and devote themselves to the Almighty, for them, of course, are all these rewards which are being spelled out here. And God very well knows His servants, His people, and He knows the slightest of good deeds that they have done, and also the slightest of misdeeds that they might have done. And then we have two verses which actually very beautifully describe the life of a true believer. And it is said that الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا إِنَّنَا آمَنَّا فَاغْفِرْ لَنَا ذُنُوبَنَا وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. So it is said that these servants of the Almighty, who are always at His beck and call, who would like to move forward in life the way He has told them to, who are these? They are ones who always pray to the Almighty. And when they pray, they say, Lord, we have professed faith. Rabbana amanna. Rabbana innana amanna. We indeed have professed faith. Faghfir lana. So please forgive our sins. Faghfir lana zunubana. Waqina azab an-nar, and save us from the torment of the fire. So this is what their words are, because they are always constantly thinking that yes, as human beings, we do falter, at times inadvertently, at times deliberately, and we keep making mistakes. And every day when we look back before we go to sleep at night, we find a whole list of things that we should have avoided, or we should have actually never done. But then it does happen that as human beings, we indulge in these things and we feel ashamed. So they are the people who get up at night, which is of course mentioned elsewhere, that they get up at night and seek God's forgiveness and ask Him to give them the strength and the courage to do what is right and to abstain what is wrong. So this God connection, or this strength of God connection, the stronger your God connection, the stronger will be the power and the courage that we will have in repelling evil, and the ease that we will have in adopting what is good and what is righteous. The last of this passage is the verse which again is a beautiful depiction of the life or the attributes of believers. So it is said, as-sabirin. First of all, it is said that they are the patient. They are always steadfast. And I think we just read this verse a couple of days ago, that they are steadfast in all times, whenever they are stricken with poverty, whenever they are stricken with war, when they are stricken with illness or various forms of tribulations and trials, they remain steadfast, because they know this is their real trial. And if they have to please God, then they have to go through these trials in a very happy, in a way in which they accept these trials, because not only are these trials a means of bringing us closer to the Almighty, but also they make us internally strong. When we come out of every trial, I'm sure all of have this experience that we are stronger than before. We are more resilient because you see, there are certain human potentials which are much below the threshold, and they are only called when there is a time of crisis or emergency. In normal circumstances, those potentials and those attributes or abilities, they are not needed, so they remain dormant. But when the time of crisis arrives, you suddenly need, you have to draw upon those sources, and then those hidden potentials, they start to blossom. They add some new features to our personality, and of course, which makes us grow. And we realize that in the garb of these trials, the Almighty has actually blessed us with this a tremendous advancement and growth in character. So the first thing which is expressed here is as-sabirin. And then the word which is used right after that is was-sadiqin, which means they are the truthful. They always speak the truth. To them, the ultimate thing is the truth. They never back away from the truth. They are addicted, if I may use the word. They are literally addicted to the truth, and whatever the cost of saying the truth would be, they bear it very willingly and very happily, in fact. So they are always truthful. They don't care what other people might think or what it might happen or what will be the consequences, because of the fact that they only please God and they only fear God. So they are truthful, and they know that this truth is going to endear them to the Almighty. So as-sabirin was-sadiqin, and then it is said wal-qanitin. So they are the ones who are obedient. I mean, of course, as the word goes, that they are the ones who comply with the Almighty, who are not rebellious. So qanit, the word qanut actually is the opposite of takabbur or istikbar, which means arrogance or thinking oneself to be superior. So on the other hand, that they realize that they are human beings. They have been created by the Almighty, and all their qualities and attributes and whatever they possess, they're all things that can be taken away by the Almighty in the blink of an eye. So they humble themselves. They have this humility in them, and they are always obedient to the directives of their Almighty, and of course the Prophet Muhammad. And then it is mentioned that wal munfiqeen, that they are the ones who actually spend in the way of God. And this is another beautiful trait that these believers have, that they don't shy away if they have a small amount. They never express favor on the other person with whom they might have done a good deed. So they are not ones who would always boast of their good deeds or make them presumptuous by actually boasting about them. And so all these are pitfalls of spending in the cause of God, as we see that the Quran mentions that it is best to spend, when you spend for the cause of God, without anyone knowing, except that you and God know, because this is what will elevate you. This is what will give you tazkiyah. This is, of course, the general rule, but at times, in exceptional cases, it has to be that you do so in front of people, especially your children, so that you encourage them that they also spend in the way of the Almighty. And lastly, it is the last attribute which is mentioned is wal-mustaghfirina bil-ashar. They are the ones who get up at the tahajjud prayer at the break of day and seek God's forgiveness. And they think that, well, they have made their blemishes and they have done a lot of things which they would never be proud of. But then as human beings, they always realize. And the beauty of all this is that the Almighty is actually waiting for that knock on his door. So when we repent, when we go down in prostration before him and admit our fault and ask for God's forgiveness, it's like knocking at God's door and asking him that, God, I have misbehaved. I have done something which I'm not proud of. Please forgive me. And they select this tahajjud time as the right time to pray, because this is the time that we have been told is the time in which it is the highest chance of your supplication being accepted, because this is the time in which you get up, especially in spite of that tremendous dominance of sleep that we experience right at daybreak or just before Fajr. So it is difficult to get up, and the Almighty says that a person who makes this effort and gets up and really makes this effort is bound to be a person who's going to be even more careful in future. So with these attributes, with this last verse, I come to an end to my talk, and now I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad, for another enlightening session. I have a written question. with regards to what may break one's fast besides eating and drinking?
Sexual intercourse with one's wife, or any sexually, if you discharge your sexual fluid, whether it's the female or the male gender in any way. It could be masturbation, it could be any sexual activity. Of course, if it is something of the sort in which there is a nightfall, or in which something which some fluid which comes out of the private parts of its own accord, which is at times the nature's way to discharge it, then that would not break the fast. But any willing, intentional sexual activity in which there is a seminal or an ovular discharge, that would break the fast, besides eating and drinking. And to add something more, like what if in our modern circumstances, if you take injections, for example, which are which provide nutrition. For example, if you take a glucose injection, or an injection which might provide you with vitality, then that would not be in line of the spirit in which we keep and observe fast. Other than that, of course, injections which are used for medicinal purposes, they are absolutely fine. But injections which are used to boost one's energy in any way, they should be abstained from.
Shehzad, IV antibiotics and nebulizations, I believe they are not.
They are fine. They will not break the fast. If you gargle, if you take steam and make this effort that this doesn't go beyond your throat, and steam, of course, generally dries down as you inhale it. So all these things they don't break fast. And another thing which does not break fast is swallowing your whenever you throw up. At times when you are throwing up something, part of it it's swallowed. If it is done inadvertently, which most of the cases is the situation, that also doesn't break the fast. Similarly, there is another misconception that if you pass blood through a wound, wherever the wound would be, then that might also break the fast. This is also a misconception. That doesn't break the fast.
And both blood donation and blood transfusion?
Similarly, blood donation, blood transfusion, breastfeeding. Obviously, we would ask a woman to consult her doctor, but if the doctor is okay, that she can breastfeed the child, and at the same time, that would be medically fine for her, then breastfeeding the child would also not break the fast.
Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. Fatma, you may ask your question now.
Assalamu alaikum. So I want to ask that in Islam, how important it is to be truthful. And at times there are situations where your parents tell a lie, and then they, force you, even emotionally blackmail you, to support them in their lies, and, cover up their lies. And in the Pakistani culture, especially in the marriage proposal system, people tell a lot of lies. And I really want to ask that, is there any room for white lies in Islam? Or you have to be truthful all the time?
No, I think there is this exceptional case in which all of us know that if there's something that you can say would break the heart of a person. Let me just give you a common example. If someone gives you a gift which might be horrible to you, you might think, well, this is something of a horrible thing that you have given. But the next day, if your friend asks you, did you like my gift? Obviously, if you keep her heart and not not cause any you would not treat it in an insensitive way, and you just say that, well, yes, it was beautiful, it was good. These kind of white lies, I think they are perfectly okay, because you're not actually you're not causing any harm with those lies. A very blatant example, for example, I can give is that if someone is after someone's life and that person has run away and he has come and hidden in your home, and then the people who've come to follow him and they knock at your door and say that we are after someone, and is he hiding in your house? And obviously, if you lie and say no, he's not there. So this is another area in which you very clearly know that your own conscience says that these are not the kind of lies which the Quran prohibits. There's no question that they are lies, but they are not the lies. As you said, the right word is white lies. But there are these exceptions in which the purpose is, the purpose or the harm which is caused by the lie is absolutely nullified in all these circumstances. Another example that comes to my mind is when an old person he or she loses a grandchild or or a young one, someone very dear to that person, and we break the news in stages. I mean, we first tell her or the old man that maybe your grandchild is very sick and the doctors have given up, whereas he might have even died. So you're preparing your grandparent to accept the shock. That again that looks to be fine. And I think as far as the conscience or your conscience, another example that comes to my mind is actually from the Quran. And the Quran, in one place, I think it's Surah Ankabut, says that if you have to tell a lie to save your lives, if you have to say the kalma kufr, but if you are in your heart you are Muslims, illa man ukriha wa qalbuhu mutmainnun bil iman. So it says that if you are pushed to say those words of disbelief, but your heart is internally Muslim and it's full of faith, and you have to lie to save your life again, or in such circumstances, then that would be fine. So you see, all these things, they make sense. And the best judge again in such situations is your conscience. It tells you that when you are lying in these situations, it is totally justified.
Shehzad Fatma specifically mentioned the matters of marriage as well. So there has been a question, I remember last year, someone asked you, if a girl is lied to about her prospective spouse and she agrees to the marriage and later on she finds, so would that marriage be halal? Because she must have said yes to a misconception, a lie.
Yes, that's another thing. That's another exception, that she was lied and she was given a wrong information and she married on the basis of that wrong information. And if it is a deal breaker for her, then I would not say that the marriage is haram. What she could do is that she could either persist, thinking that she has been deceived or defrauded, and she would not like to break the bond. And if she would like to break the bond and seek divorce, then she's fully justified. Otherwise, you see, once the marriage bond is has taken place, we cannot say that it's a haram relationship. It's a perfectly halal relationship, although she can immediately end it or choose to abide by it.
Thank you so much. Adil Qureshi, you may ask a question now.
So
I
have a practical question regarding zakat. So during the amount of zakat that I have to pay towards the end of the year wealth, I'm just slightly confused about the nisab amount. Like, I know that it is about 52 dollars of silver. That has to be the minimum amount. If I'm able to save that much, then I guess I don't need to pay any zakat on that. But if I'm able to have more than that amount with me, then do I need to pay the zakat 2.5% tax on all the amount that I have, or do I still have to subtract the value of 52 dollars?
There are actually two opinions of various scholars, and I am inclined to believe the opinion of those who say that this is an exemption. And so therefore, anything which is above those 52.5 grams of silver is the one which is zakatable, and the rest is exempted. But another group of scholars say that once this is not an exemption, and this is a nisab, and therefore once you cross this limit, then the whole of the amount becomes zakatable. So I think you can adopt either opinion. And another thing that you need to note is that as far as the zakat on or exemption on salaries is concerned, because this exemption is on wealth, this 52 grams of silver. But as far as exemption on production is concerned, you can use the same formula which a government gives to salaried individuals, in which that exemption, a certain amount of salary is exempted. And on the basis of my view that this is an exemption, I take it analogously to wealth as well. So when I say that 52 grams of silver will be subtracted and the remaining would be zakatable at the rate of 2.5%, it is precisely on the basis of this, that when a government gives you this exemption on your salaries, for example, it says that salaried people who earn 200,000 rupees per year, they are exempted. So what does it do? It actually taxes the remaining if a person is earning, let's say, 1 million, so the 800,000 would be zakatable or taxable to a government. So the 2,000 is basically an exemption. So my reason of regarding 52 grams of silver to be an exemption is similar to this actually, because here it is an exemption. So I think it has to be treated an exemption there as well. And anything which is above 52.5 grams of silver is actually zakatable for wealth.
Right. So you said grams, and I was saying tola. Are tola and grams the same thing, or are they?
No, they are different. There is a difference, and you'll find this difference being calculated. Just consult any. You just Google it, and you'll find that actually in the Arabic, the word is uqiyas. Uqiya is a measure of a certain amount of silver or gold. So this turns out to be about 52 grams of silver. But you can actually, I think it's 52.45 or 52.5, something like that. You will have these conversion tables. I mean, you just go on Google.
Thank you, Ayan Zuberi. You may have your question now.
Thank you. I had a question regarding in the Quran, in Surah Falaq, when it says "Qul a'udhu birabbil falaq," that God is the creator. Maulana Minas al-Islahi writes that that God is not the creator of evil, rather it is his creation that in turn creates evil. So we don't blame God for evil, then why would we perhaps give him the credit of the good characteristics of human beings or any good deeds that they do?
Actually, this is a misconception which people have often come up with, because the word shar in Arabic doesn't just mean evil, it also means calamity. So here the word is used in the form of calamity, like for example earthquakes or these natural calamities that befall, or could be poverty like the pandemic that we have just gone through. So the word used is min sharri ma khalaq, which means from the calamities that he has created, not the evil that he has created, which is in contrast to what is good or what is the right. So the word shar has to be understood. The word shar does not mean evil. It here means calamities, or I mean things which are natural disasters or other forms of disaster. So do look up this word and its usage in the Quran. And it's not the fact is, because we are I mean at times overcome with the Urdu meaning of a certain Arabic word, that we at times don't realize that in Arabic it has different meanings. So in Urdu the word shar is always used for evil. It's not used for a calamity. But in Arabic, this is a very common usage.
Okay. But in regards to why we thank God, so why would the reason be then?
I couldn't understand your question.
I said, why do we thank God? As in, just
why do we thank God?
Yes.
I mean, why do you think we should thank God?
Because he has bestowed us with blessings, but scholars opine that God does not will evil, rather he's given a permission for evil to happen. So
you see, all these are kalami or theological debates which scholars have indulged in. They have, I mean, if I use a slightly harsh word, contaminated very modern minds. And this is not the terminology of the Quran at all. And it's this philosophically oriented theologians who were under the influence of Greek, I would say Greek philosophy, and some of the questions which the Greek philosophers were faced with, that they had to grapple with those questions, because we know that there was a time in which a lot of Greek disciplines were translated into Arabic, and they had their own influence. So, and this influence went as far as that our own balagha or eloquence or rhetoric, it began to adopt the standards of Greek rhetoric or Greek eloquence, and we had a large impact on our disciplines. So a very similar impact occurred in our Ilm al-Kalam as well, in theology as well, from these Greek disciplines. The Quran makes it a very simple issue, and it says that these blessings of God, they are given by Him, not because we have earned them in any way, or in most cases I would say they are given because He is a compassionate, merciful God who has created this world for the benefit of mankind, so that they enjoy these pleasures, and as a natural consequence thank Him. And even if you forget about God, just look at this. I always give this example, that in our real world, when someone gives us some gift or something which we really like and cherish, what's our immediate reaction? We immediately thank him, and in fact, we try to repay him with a better substitute. So it's like simply telling. I mean, God tells us that these are the favors that He has blessed mankind with, and these favors are blessed because they are made to be a means of His trial. He will hold them accountable for these blessings that He has given them. It's like a privilege, and every privilege necessitates responsibility and accountability. So it's a very simple premise which the Quran, states, and does not go into the complicated and intricate debates which were actually, as I said, originated mostly in pre-Islamic Greek literature or Greek philosophy.
Thank you. Nusrat Khwaja, you may ask your question now.
Yeah, thank you, Nadia. Dr. Saab, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question regarding the marriage. How or what does our deen say about living with the in-laws or treatment with the in-laws, especially for a girl? What is direction? Our Pakistani Indian culture is, live with the parents. Boys stay with the parents. In Arab, it's different. They always move out, have a separate home. I'm confused. What is more Islamic?
Islam has not interfered in this issue. This is more of a cultural issue. There are various cultural traditions which are followed in various countries. We have joint family systems. We have the forerunners of these joint family systems, which were tribes. I mean, tribes were larger family systems. And as time has passed, rural and this tribal culture has given way to urban culture, in which at times it is difficult to live together, and so people have started to move out from their parents' houses. So I think this is something which has been left to the natural flow of circumstances and to culture and traditions of an area. Islam has nothing to say about it. What it does say is that yes, the rights and obligations that you owe to your in-laws or to your spouses or to your children, they have to be in line with justice. So always remember that the guidance which Islam provides in such areas is moral, is ethical in its outlook. As far as the family setups are concerned and the traditions that you follow, it has left them to the discretion of people. Because remember, we are not following the same culture all over the world. People have different inclinations. People have different setups, and this is the beauty of human beings, because they have been given this free will to exercise whatever they want to do. So the Almighty does not interfere in these things except when the issue is moral or requires some moral interference. So there is no particular guideline, I would say. And in the times of the Prophet, it was more of a joint family system. There was not the concept that people would first become professionals. Like, for example, today, at the age of 30 to 35 or even 40, you become a professional, and then you are in a position to marry. And then at times you marry and you stay with your with your parents, or you move away. This was not the case in Arabia, and whenever the person wanted to get married at an early age, the wife would be brought home and she would be considered as part of the family, and the father would cater for the as long as his son would be in a position not to do so, he would be there for the daughter-in-law as well. So different things were followed in different times, and they're all equally fine as far as cultures are concerned. The only thing is justice, fairness, and the norms of decency, they have to be followed.
Yeah, but yet you say that, but Arab culture is like they have to move away, or they have to have their own house before they get married.
This is today's culture.
Oh, okay.
So you see, today in a Western country, even before marriage at the age of 14 or 15, even when you're not a fully adult person, you tend to move out and live alone in apartments, and you don't live with your parents. This is another form of culture, although not prevalent in most Muslim countries, but a large part of this world is again witnessing this culture in which future husband and wife, they move in together in a house much before they're married. They start living together, maybe 4 or 5 years of living together, and then they get married. And even at times they have children before they're married, and then they formalize marriage and then have more children. So you see, there are so many models which are now in vogue in this world.
Thank you. Shiraz Ahmed, you may have your question now.
Assalamu alaikum, Shehzad bhai. Shehzad bhai, so it's not related to Surah Falak, but the earlier question premise, if I understood correctly, was that if there is evil and there is good, then it becomes sort of a reason to thankful to God that He is preventing any evil to happen to us. If I recall correctly, it's mentioned in the Quran that when, inshallah, people gonna go into Jannah, they will hear the sounds of salam, they will do, tasbih over there and hamd over there, and there won't be any evil. They won't hear anything bad in Jannah. So even in Jannah, they are being thankful to God. So now I will phrase my question like this, that we are thankful to God first for bringing us into being. And God says that it's nothing because that benefits Him, and then bestowing all the grace and blessings upon us, whether in this world or hereafter. So whether evil exists or not, there are plenty of reasons to be thankful to God about. Would that be a accurate statement to say? Thank you very much.
Yes, that would be an accurate statement, because you see, whether God has created evil or not, that could be debated or discussed, and that has been discussed in parts in the Quran as well, because the Quran says that evil, primarily evil, what you call as evil, is as a result of misuse of power of people. So other than that, of course, that is because evil itself is a means of trial, and because this world has been created for trial, so both evil, being afflicted or inflicted with evil, and at the same time being passing through good circumstances, both are trials in themselves. So thanking God for what we have and being patient for what we don't have, or being patient in circumstances which are very adverse, both are attitudes that we have to adopt. So regardless of what we might not have, the extent of blessings that we have, they easily outnumber some of our deprivations. And precisely to this, the Quran has actually said at one instance, it says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you start counting the blessings of God, you'll not be able to count them. They're uncountable. So the blessings that you witness and benefit from, they far, far outnumber some of the deprivations or calamities that you might suffer.
Thank you, Shehzad. So would it be an accurate, the summary would be that the blessings of God themselves are sufficient to be thankful to Him for eternity. Whether evil exists or not doesn't matter, right?
Absolutely. And one more thing is that we know that this evil, what we call an evil, in itself is a means of trial, and itself is a means of thanking God and still being grateful. So on the one hand, we are thankful for His blessings, and on the other hand, we are thankful that in spite of some of the afflictions that we are suffering, our blessings outnumber these afflictions. And at the same time, we also think that these afflictions and these adversities that come our way, they have a certain philosophy behind them. At times, they are because of our own misdeeds. At times, what God wants us to create an opportunity to come closer to Him. Because remember, adversities bring us closer to God. So you see, even in those trials and adversities that we come through, there are several occasions of being thankful. But as I just said, that at times adversity, which might feel when you might feel when it begins to be something very tough, but once you combat it and you come out of it, you feel spiritually stronger, and which makes you even more thankful to the Almighty. So you see, this thanksgiving and this gratitude I think is a more comprehensive package than just being thankful for His blessings.
Dr. Sahil Anwar, you may have your question now.
My question today is, as a scholar of religion and listening to other scholars, we see that as a group of people, as a group of Muslims, Pakistani Muslims, We spend a lot of time talking about jurisprudence and matters related to rituals. I just want to pick up a little psychology issue with you today, which is very common. It's a cultural problem, but obviously it has roots in religion. Is the problem of validation of someone else's feeling. As a group of people, we are very judgmental. We are very critical. It doesn't take us a second to judge someone else. And part of being judgmental is non-validation of someone else's feeling. And where I'm coming from is a discussion that we had the other day about the rights of women and such like. And now that we have got the internet, which has empowered minorities or oppressed minorities to speak, because they can speak without the fear of persecution, because if there's a lot of anonymity, nobody knows. So internet has empowered minorities, oppressed minorities, and women culturally, traditionally, historically have been an oppressed minority. We see a lot of our women come in and trying to tell us that we are not happy with the status quo and we are not listening to them, we are not validating their feelings. So if someone is coming and tell us, look, I'm not happy with the power balance in the house between a husband and a wife, we are telling them, oh, don't worry about it. In Islam, the value of mother is very high, don't you know? Mother is above the realm of heaven. And the women come crying to us again and tell us that this is not right. I'm not happy with the law of inheritance. And we tell them, oh, don't worry about it. Don't you know, if you raise up your daughters very nicely, your daughters are so precious, you'll go to heaven. And they come to us crying again with something else. And we tell them, oh, don't worry about it. In Islam, the level of women is very, very precious and very high. So what we are doing, our women are trying to tell us something. They're trying to tell us that we need to change our ways from letting them, we have imprisoned them for the last 1400 years and we love them. They stay at house, look after our kids and make chapatis and we absolutely love it. But why aren't we validating what I'm asking you, what is the way to validate and actually listen to these women who are crying out loud and we're shutting them down by telling them hadith after hadith after hadith, but actually not validating their feelings? Is there a middle ground where we actually could validate their feeling, listen to them, and yet keep some kind of compromise? Is there a religious base to it in this new world?
Well, I think that in each of these examples that you have given, the answers that we give generally to, I would use the word shut off their, or to give them a shut up call and tell them, well, this is the wisdom behind such a directive. Each and every answer that you have given, which of course is not your answer, it's a reflection of what our society gives, is absolutely wrong. And I think the reason for this, which is happening, is that when they come to us, or they come to their husbands maybe, or they come to the society or the intelligentsia, the answers to their problems are not given in the light of the Quran, or I would say according to the right argument that the Quran has offered. I can name so many subjects, I can name so many misconceptions regarding women in which they are silenced by giving a wrong answer. And whenever you say, well, the Prophet said this or the Quran said this, and you just impose those words, the poor thing is just going to back away and think, okay, well, what the Quran is saying this, or if the Hadith is saying this, well, yes, maybe we should not do these things or not complain. So you see, this is what I call a very unfortunate state of affairs, in which when they come with their problems, yes, the first thing that you have said is absolutely important, that empathetically dealing with them, realizing from where they are coming from, giving them assurance, is absolutely important. So I would answer your question by saying that we have to deal with such situations in a two-pronged approach. One, in which we make them realize that yes, this is an issue. The emotions that you have expressed, more often than not, because I have been doing this for many, many years, and I realize this, that when they express this emotional, I mean, they come in with this emotional outburst, 90% of it is absolutely true. I mean, there is exaggeration, which every person can, go at times overboard, but 90% of the complaints that they come and offer and explain or state, they are absolutely true. And with this gives them that, I mean, emotional dissatisfaction. So the first is that you have to emotionally and empathetically tell them that, yes, whatever you're stating is absolutely a pertinent thing. It is totally correct what you are feeling. And if I was in your place, I would have perhaps felt even more what you are now feeling. So this is first there to calm them down. I'm not saying this is something, I mean, sort of a thing in which you are trying to cajole them or pamper them. No, this is the truth. You have to calm them down by telling them that, yes, this is an issue. This is a real-time issue, and you have felt it absolutely correctly. And then secondly, you have to have the right answer to their objections or their whatever the things they have. You see, women have been oppressed in the name of Islam since centuries, and feminism is not just the result of women being subjugated in the name of Islam. Feminism, as you all know, it started off with not the subjugation of women in the name of Islam, but in the name of religion itself. So religions, it was Christianity, it was Muslims, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in all these religions, the way women were dealt in those times 3 centuries ago, it was but natural for them. For example, Mary Wollstonecraft, who was the I think pioneer of feminism, when she wrote that book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, I think in the 18th century. So she was presenting her case in a very, I think, a very, very well argued way. But the answer to those arguments, if I expand my canvas to not just Islam but to religion, they were not, I mean, tackled properly. Even today, women face discrimination in spite of the fact we have very enlightened, I would say, democracies or some of the countries, but even then they face that discrimination. So aside from discrimination, if I now come to Islam, then I can tell you that the amount of suppression that they still face and are facing and are going through even today, and I don't see any end to it, is huge. And this is because our clergy and our majority of our religious scholars, they don't realize the harm that they are inflicting by not revisiting the answers that they give. Because either they are misinterpretations of the Quran, or they are things which are cultural, or they are things which are socio-cultural, or they are things in which religion has got nothing to do with them. It is perhaps a very zaif hadith or a very, very misunderstood hadith that has been communicated to them. And I am a personal witness. I can go on and on with so many examples that happen and that are, I mean, etched in my mind, in which these wrong answers and wrong tackling with women has aggravated. So what happens is that when they come with this emotional outburst, not only we are not able to calm that emotional outburst by empathetically dealing with them, we create a further problem by actually answering them in a way that they are silenced, not because they are convinced, but because when we use words like, for example, saying that this is what the Quran says, or this is what the Prophet has said, and this is what the Hadith say, and because most of them are not in a position to perhaps go and find out whether the Quran actually says that or not, because, I mean, once you say that the Quran says this, so they just fall silent. So it's a wrong use of authority again. So in my life for the past many years, I have made it a mission personally to see to it that we do our level best, because you see, as responsible individuals, it is our primary responsibility that if we are to tell religion or to be able to communicate the precepts of religion, then one of the most oppressed, I mean, there are more than 50% of our population, world population, according to some figures. So, I mean, this is a maltreatment and a mistreatment that has been going on. And unless we set it right with the right attitude, with the right way forward, I don't see any end to it. And this is my personal take on it, is that we have to do a lot. And this can be done by creating awareness in women. So I have lectured all over the world a number of times regarding many of the misconceptions, and at the same time wanting women especially to come forward and form groups in which this education could be given to them, in which they are empowered and told that what they are being taught in the name of religion is half truth, or maybe not even the truth. And if they want to empower themselves, then we are in a position to tell you that, look, this is what the Quran says, this is what the Hadith says. All that you need is to come and understand them, and don't care about what other people say. So this is my personal mission, and I have help from many of my colleagues as well. Our institute also is trying to do these things. I have published on this, and I have spoken on this issue, and in fact I have been outspoken. Once I was giving a lecture at this Lahore University of Management Sciences, LUMS, on an issue. The issue was related to men, something related to women and their subjugation at the hands of men. And halfway through the lecture, about, I would say, 20% of our religious people who were present there, the Tablighi Jamaat to be precise, they walked out of that room. And I didn't feel it. I mean, I'd never felt bad about it, because I knew that, I mean, what I was trying to make sense to them was falling on them like bombshells, and they were flabbergasted. And when they saw that this is how I view a certain matter, and LUMS, is a very, I mean, it's a university, and you'll find all sorts of people. They are extremely modern and extremely ultra modern people, and at the same time very, very conservative people. So it's like, I always say, it's like France, which has a lot of conservatism and at the same time a lot of liberalism. But this is what I faced, and I keep facing it. But I think this is the way forward, that we have to empower the silent majority, especially in this case, women, who should be educated, who should be told. And I can also tell you this thing out of experience, that once we are able to empower them, I have so many examples that I can see from my students, that they become shining examples of people who epitomize religion, who become even more practicing when they hear that this is what their Lord wants from them. Because you see, it's so natural, this religion regarding the rights of women and the way we have to tackle them and tell them, it's like their own call. So I feel that when we communicate these things to them, they become even more powerful and empowered, and they try to spread this far and wide. So this is a very humble and a very small effort, and we need to amplify it as much as we can, and that's what best we can do, I think.
Yeah, I think we got to have a wake-up call. In the last 500 years, the number of scientific publications submitted to peer-reviewed scientific journals from the Muslim countries is 10%, is less than 10%, because we have incarcerated half of our population in houses, looking after our parents and making parathas. That's all they do. They're just imprisoned in the houses. So half of our brain power is just gone. So that's why we are nowhere to be seen on and we're just not listening. And they're crying out, we're just not listening. But anyway, thank you.
And one more observation that I'd like to share is that as far as intelligence and competence is concerned, in my personal experience of so many years, I can tell you that the number of women who have outshone boys, I mean, girls who have outshone boys, or women who have outshone men, is far more. I mean, there's no comparison. So I find girls and women to be so intelligent, to be so hardworking, to be so committed. And if you give me if you ask me to judge what would be my rating, I would give the benefit, I would say, or the most marks to to women as opposed to men, because they have outshone them not only in intelligence, in obtaining marks, in outstanding research work, in assignments, in the way they talk and debate, in the way they are empathetic. That I at times feel amazed at how the Almighty has put them to trial, that in spite of being so talented, they have been cornered in a way that ultimately this had to be the result, that a rebellion that a rebellion actually emanates from them, which is actually doing so as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sale, for asking a very pertinent question. Fatma, you may have your question now.
Yes, I want to ask that can I do i'tikaf in the last 3 days of Ramzan, and is it absolutely necessary to do it in the mosque?
Yes, the i'tikaf is an ibadah which is prescribed for both men and women in the mosque, and you can do it for lesser number of days. But if there is some, issue without because of which you are not able to go to the mosque, I mean, it could be many reasons. Then this is a lesser, I would say, step in which you do i'tikaf in one of your rooms. Otherwise, the proper prescription for both men and women is the mosque.
Okay, but I mean, there's no practical issue. It's just a feeling thing. I don't feel safe in the mosque.
So you see, that's what I'm saying. If you don't feel safe in the mosque, if there is this feeling in which you are not comfortable, well, I mean, you can take this into account, but always keep this in mind that the right form of itikaf is in the mosque. But if there is an exception because of any valid reason, then yes, you can do it in your house as well.
And it can be done for 3 days, right?
It can be done for 3 days or even less.
Thank you, Adil. You may have your question now.
Doctor, just one clarifying bit. You said 54 grams. I'm still stuck in that conversion. So 54 tolas is what I've heard since childhood. 54 tolas, if converted into grams, is about 606 grams. So did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say grams?
You said grams, yes.
No, that please correct that. No, that's not correct. So the tolas, it's 7.5. So in the times of the Prophet, 7.5 tolas of gold and 52 tolas of silver, they were exactly the same. I mean, they had the same, they were equivalent. So, but the actual nisab, which was fixed by the Prophet, was of silver. So we will take 52.5 tolas of silver. Whatever it is, it comes into gram. I think it's 613 grams, if I remember correctly.
All right,
or something to that effect. Something to that effect.
Okay, thank you.
That's the end of the lineup of questions today.